Hey guys, it's Mike Spinelli from The Drive, and we're at Classic Car Club Manhattan, their brand new space here on the Hudson River in beautiful sort of Midtown-ish Manhattan, Midtown West.
Tropical Manhattan.
Tropical Manhattan. We're finally getting to an actual New York summer, which is kind of fun, and that means it's time to do stuff on the weekends. And Michael Pritchinello here from Classic Car Club Manhattan had an idea to do a show called The Weekender.
Yep.
And it's about racing, but it's not just about going out and racing, it's about learning to race.
Yeah.
Figuring out what kind of racing you want to do.
Right.
And why don't we talk about what that means and actually why there's a drive logo on it.
So,
what is this thing, by the way?
This is Katie, just named her.
Where are the other two wheels?
Those are, so for me, cars are training wheels for motorcycle riding. So I clearly love cars. Like, I love cars. Right. I love racing cars. I love racing anything.
Yeah.
But there is something about a motorcycle. There's just something about a motorcycle that, like, and I don't really ride on the street. I derive zero pleasure from that. I know people do, and that's cool.
I know you used to.
Yeah, I used to. I've sort of evolved, though. I enjoy going as fast as I have the minerals to go. Right. Which maybe isn't always the fastest, but like, you just can't do it on the street in a motorcycle. And these things are basically $15,000 motorcycle. You walk out of the shop and you have a Bugatti Veyron there on next two wheels. And so I prefer racetracks. Safer, believe it or not. But back to The Weekender. What I had this ambition, being part of the Classic Car Club, and my whole life is like weekends are at racetracks, and it's like you couldn't ask for a better job. Like, I'm a professional racer who's not a very good racer compared to everybody else, But
you're a guy who gets to do the cool shit part of,
like you.
Of it, yeah.
Yeah, and at the Classic Car Club, we're just all about car culture, motorsport culture, and getting into it. And like, maybe 10 years ago when I started racing cars, like, we raced Spec Miatas, and like me and Zach and Adam, and then we'd show up to like an SCCA race with like one truck and a trailer, and like, we were figuring it out. Like, we were figuring it out. And like, we would have a transmission blow up, and we go knock on our competitors' trailers, like, hey, what do we do, Yeah. And then we learned, and we learned, and we learned, and now we have like a fleet of specs. We have an 18-wheeler. We have a full-time race mechanic for just that. Our team is now like, if you're competing in SCCA Spec Miata, we're one of those teams you want to beat because we're up front. Especially like JJ and Adam on our team, and they're quick. We change transmissions now in 45 minutes. Like, we have the setup. And now we're the ones that people knock on our trailer door. And for me, that is what I love about racing. Like, you get into it, it's always like, oh, I'm gonna beat this guy. It's really like, for me, you meet the most interesting people you will meet on a racetrack, and you're all in it together. And usually it's a pretty good feeling. And being part of this car culture that we're all part of, I think that there are so many people out there who sort of like in the back of their head, they say, man, I wish I could race. And they leave it at that because it's so hard to figure out how to do. I think it's a sport that has a lot of hurdles.
Yeah.
I don't know of any high school team, like race team, right? Like,
that's true. There really aren't a lot of high school level racing. I mean, at the college level, there's the SAE, Formula SAE,
right?
And that's a great program.
Super cool. And it's almost like a STEM program, though. It's about engineering.
It's a STEM program. It is totally about the engineering, and basically everybody from that world goes on, if they stay in engineering, a lot of them go into automotive engineering and end up building actual cars.
Right.
And probably not, a lot of them probably still continue to race on weekends and stuff, but to your point,
they build cars, I just want to drink more champagne.
To your point,
I grew up playing ice hockey.
Yeah.
Right? So like, it was very easy to figure that out. Like, I started when I was young. My elementary school didn't have it, but I had it in my town.
Yeah.
And I went to a meeting and I signed up and I bought a pair of skates and a stick and boom, I was playing hockey. That's how it went.
Yeah.
You don't do that with this. And I know that there are so many people out there who watch The Drive, who read The Drive, who go to car shows, who are at Radwood, who are doing all that stuff. And there's got to be 20% of those people in the back saying, I wish I could race.
Yeah.
And it just ends there.
Yeah.
And so what I wanted to do is, being really lucky to be able to do all this stuff. Like, I've gone through the learning process of it, and I am totally still going through the process of it, because motorcycle racing, like, I've been riding motorcycles on tracks for years. Racing is different.
Yeah.
This year I'm racing, and so
racecraft is, that's when you realize, when you, I mean, I was on a million track days, right?
Right.
You know, I thought I could drive a little bit.
oh man,
First time I was in race traffic, and it wasn't serious race traffic. I mean,
Right.
I mean, Chump Car is as you know,
racy as
as
it's gotten,
racy
so-
as I've ever gotten. And once you're in traffic, you realize that it's a different thing. That
It
the
is.
skills of racing.
it is. And on a motorcycle, man, I take it really seriously because in a car, racing cars, I'm a bit cavalier. I'll be honest with you,
Yeah.
because of the motorcycles. Like if there's a gap, JJ on our teams is like, you're on the verge of being a dive bomber, which maybe you don't want to do, but you know what? I get the pass done usually.
Right.
But if you're going to pass somebody on a motorcycle, you better commit and you better make sure you're doing it correctly because you're putting everybody in a touch of danger when you're doing it.
Right.
But I don't want to discourage people.
Right. Well, but I mean, so let's go back to the how to do it, because I think what both of us do in this, like, I don't think either of us are doing this for our own ego, right? Like,
No.
I fell into being a journalist and I get to drive cars, but I mean, my job and the thing that I like to do is bring the experience
That's exactly it.
to other people, and I think with the club, and not to, you know, toot our own horns, but that's really why we started doing the things that we're doing, is
that's
to
what
get
we
other
find.
people
That's
involved.
exactly it. Like me and Zach Car Club and Phil, like we do it because we love doing it.
Yeah.
And if you genuinely love doing it, you make it approachable for other people. And so what the series of the Weekender, which is all about, which will come out right after this one, is I'm doing this 13-week race series. And I'm just doing a very honest documentary for each one. And it's not about how I do. That's certainly part of it. Like I will be very honest, and like I already did my first race, and we'll talk about that in a second. I'll be very honest about that too. But really, all I want to do is just give people a roadmap to try to learn if you want to go racing, if you want to race a motorcycle or a car or a lawnmower or whatever it is that you could race. They do those like coolers with engines.
Yeah, sure.
Go race that. Racing's always better. And so the concept of the whole show is to show people the roadmap that I've taken, some of the decisions I've made that were right, that were wrong, and how to do it. But for me, like I just wanted to get into this bike, the series that I race in, and why. So if you think of motorcycles, you know, most people think, oh, they're dangerous, they're really fast and all that. It's all true, but everything doesn't have to be 1,000 cc. So, you know, super bikes are 1,000 cc, super sport are 600. In Europe and Asia and everywhere, like the real bikes, not the real bikes, the most popular bikes are lightweight bikes with low cc count. And it's just starting to happen in America. And like once that started happening, that's just like, I'm gonna go racing again. Because I have a race bike, a Suzuki SV650, which is one of the most raced bikes in America and the world. It's great. Then this thing came out. So what we're looking at here is this is a KTM RC390 Cup edition. So they make a street version and then they make the Cup edition, which comes straight from the factory, the KTM race factory. It's basically the stock bike with another about 46 Go Fast parts on it. So like, things like WP suspension, bigger brake discs, all sorts of stuff. Rear sets, engine casings, blah, blah, blah. It doesn't really matter. Foldable levers, so when I crash, they'll still probably work. I can pick the bike up and go again. But I chose this, which is 390cc. It's about 40 horsepower, maybe the way it's tuned right now, probably about 42 horsepower. It's not the fastest thing, but Jesus, is it quick.
Yeah.
You know, it's very light. It's all about corner speed. But the reason I chose this, and this is the first thing, like, what do you want to race? Do you want to race a car or a bike or whatever it is? Where do you do it? So the first thing you need to do is like, look at your local track. Go on the map, find your local track, go there, talk to them, or call them up and say, hey, like what club racing do you do? Like, does SCCA come around?
Yeah.
And they'll tell you like what your local racing is. And then go to that website and look at the rules, sort of look at the classification and the rules. So if it's cars, you know, like SCCA has, we race Spec Miata because we think that the cars are fun, the competition is correct, and we like to race lightweight things, which is back to why I chose this.
Yeah.
I could go ride a 1,000cc bike around racetracks. I've done it, but you know, maybe my corner entry is a little bit sketchy, and maybe my exit's a little bit sketchy, but I could roll that throttle on and make up for things.
Right.
With this is like a momentum bike. Big sweeping corners, breathe on the brake, you know, mineral up and go through that corner. And if you make a small mistake, a very just a little minute mistake, the competition will start walking away. and I can't just whack a throttle open and catch them. Like, I have to do everything perfect.
Yeah.
So I would rather take a bike like this and ride it at 100%, or 96%, or 104% when the time comes.
For you, 100%.
Right.
And maybe 100% for you will be different later on.
The moment that I am able to like back this bike into a corner and slide it around everything, then I'll move up to 600 cc's. But until then, for me, I believe that like if you want to go fast on anything in a car or whatever, start small and learn like all the perfect particulars, and then move up from there. The other thing is that like about this size is like these bikes were kind of made for like youth competition in a way, right? So they did KTM Cup Series all around the world.
Not midlife crisis competition.
Right, on midlife crisis.
Sorry,
right? Those are high school kid competitions, right. Midlife crisis. But what I have learned is like the really fast guys on tracks, they'll have you like, you know, BMW S1000 RR that was made for track and everything. They also have this. So what I learned really quickly is that fast guys go fast because they can manage a machine to its edge. And then when you put someone who has talent on something like this, they will wipe up anybody on a 1000cc bike, which is a lot similar to like, you know, Miatas. Like we go out on track days and you have guys in GT3s, put a racer in a Miata, and yes, that GT3 will smoke them on the straight. But around turn 5, 6, that Miata's going to be back in your window because it's made for corner speed.
Well, yeah, that brings up an interesting point, right? Because the show that you're doing is a series, and it's over the course of a season.
Whole season.
Right? A whole season of racing. But what I've found is that I don't race enough to build the skills to get to that next level.
Right.
This is something when you go into racing, and we're talking about basically after track days, when you start actually getting into competition racing.
Right.
You have to do it a lot, right? I mean, it's a 10,000 hour skill.
So my preparation, you're completely right. In my preparation, my goal for this year. Wait, hang on a second. So to prepare for racing, I started this goal 2 years ago. You know, I was doing every weekend in a car and I was loving it, but I was at the back of my head, I was like, I gotta get back into racing. I dabbled in it a little bit, still continued to do track days, but motorcycles fell behind. But that is at the core of me is like racing a motorcycle, at least being on my track. So first thing I did was actually my wife bought me a motocross bike. I'm a city kid, I never rode motocross. It is a very important fundamental for learning how to ride a bike.
Yeah.
You really get to learn how to manage lack of traction at slow speeds. So that was important. I'm terrible at it, but I stick with it. Like, it doesn't matter how bad I am, I'm learning every time, taking data.
But it's sort of like going to a rally school, like taking a couple of days at a rally school.
Vehicle management dynamics,
yeah,
right?
Exactly. You know, learning on low traction environments. Right. Low mu or whatever they call it now.
The next thing is, you know, I know the feeling of wearing 40 pounds of leather in the summer. It's hot. It's like this is an endurance sport more than cars. Like you are one of the moving parts on the machine. Right. So there's a lot of movement back and forth, a lot of G's under braking. So I like cycling. So I took my cycling to the next level. I actually started a cycling team at the Classic Car Club. So now I got a bunch of guys and women who ride with me a couple times a week from the club, and we stack on miles. And the reason for that was I was 175 pounds. I was happy with that, but now I'm 148 pounds.
Wow.
Because the best way to go faster is to be lighter, and it lets me move on the bike more. My cardio has improved quite a bit, so I'm able to like maintain a full weekend on.
Well, you're like Nico Rosberg riding around Monaco, right? I mean, that's like, I mean, all those guys are serious cyclists.
I'm competing.
That's big.
I'm big. That's it, especially with motorcycle racing, because you know, when we're leaned over in a corner, I can actually take my hands off the bars because you're controlling that bike with your legs and your core. And so I genetically have chicken legs. Like that is a chicken. Now I have slightly more muscular chicken legs, but it helps.
Yeah.
You know, so I was doing the motocross, I was doing that. I've gone to a lot of race schools. So I had done, I've done a few, and then I did Yamaha Champ School. I will continue to go to them because it's not to say that there's a right way or a wrong way to ride a motorcycle. There are different philosophies. I believe in their philosophy, which is sort of all about like trail braking, and through the series I'll get into all that, but like I agree with how they ride a motorcycle. I know all of the science and physics of riding a motorcycle. Now it's just down to me to be able to apply science, right? Because man's only birthed the science that he can apply. And so I, you know, last year I did a lot of track days. I did race school, and I was just sort of like making sure I could compete. And now this year, you know, this is sort of the next level. So now I'm racing a lot. Races are on Sundays, so I get to the track. I ride Friday, I ride Saturday, ride Sunday, and race Sunday. And anytime I'm on track now, I am with a private coach. So I hooked up with this guy, Bill Sink. Bill Sink is a coach from Yamaha Champ School. He runs a great squad called Evolve GT. So they do track days and motorcycles, and they, you know, they arrange like the racing and stuff. And I like their philosophy. They're all about coaching. So I either ride with Bill Sink, or this weekend I rode with a guy, Ben Walters, who's, you know, multi-time national champ and a really great guy. And they love the sport of motorcycling. They want to teach people how to ride properly. So any minute they give me, I am on their real wheel, learning as much as I can. You know, you don't want to take it lightly. You want to be able to do these things.
It's interesting because you're at a certain level, but if you're not at your level, if you're just getting started driving on a track, or even starting to think about racing, I mean, a NASA track day with instructors there.
That's it.
It's a fantastic and cheap way to start getting, because instruction, honestly, I mean, I have nothing but tremendous respect for driving instructors who get in a car with a guy or woman they don't know.
Mentalists.
I mean, it could be, and they're people freeze up behind the wheel when they come into a corner quick.
Yeah.
I mean, they put themselves in danger, in the same kind of danger, and maybe sometimes more because they don't have any control.
Yeah. JJ Jenkins on our Triple C racing team on the automotive side of things. Also, by the way, a phenomenal motorcycle rider. Pisses me to waste if he doesn't even do it anymore. He still smoke me on any given day. But his approach to racing is so scientific and research, and he's got the data. And he does that like on weekends when like SCCA is doing training schools. He's there, he volunteers his time, and he straps in, and like I give him a high five every time.
Oh yeah.
He has been in situations a few times very close to the edge. People just don't want to listen, or you know, just driving outside of their ability.
I mean, there's an adrenaline dump when you get on the track for the first time. I mean, the problem is, you know, everybody looks at the GoPros of the guys spinning off the track and they go, oh, yeah, this guy's arrogant, he didn't brake. I mean, sometimes you get back there, your brain kind of shuts down, and you're not, you know,
the amount of data that's flying at you is insane. But JJ does it because he loves the sport, and his sport is only good if there's enough people for him to beat, right? So
that is so true.
He's sharing his knowledge. It's amazing.
Well, so getting people over the, I mean, the trepidation maybe of going to the track for the first time, having to ask someone to help them. Right. I mean, you know, sometimes it's hard to ask someone for help.
It's a very macho thing.
Yeah.
Right? Like, oh, how are you going into that corner? Or it's more than that. Like, what car do I get?
Well,
what car do I get? Where do I start? You know. But for the car races, start with SCCA. SCCA, Sports Car Club of America, is an awesome organization. You know, sometimes you go to the website and things look a bit technical and all that. Don't let it get you. Just sort of decide, like, what is my budget?
Yeah.
What can you do? What, like, do I got $10,000 to go racing? Do I have $100,000 racing? Do I have $50?
Yeah.
You can race on any of those budgets. So, you know, look at the classes, look at the series, look at the cars, and just sort of think of like how affordable is it to change. Now, pick your series. Go to the bulletin board. Someone is selling a car from last season that you could buy cheap. It's already done.
Yeah.
They'll tell you what was done to it. They'll tell you what you need to maintain it. That's a really good start.
And you know what's great about just going and hanging out at racetracks?
So yes, I was saying, so like social media. Go on social media. You'll find 3 other guys or girls that want to race for you.
Yeah.
That makes it easy. You have a team to do knowledge with, to share the costs in, all of that.
Yeah.
The other thing about costs is that, like, you know, for me, like anybody, it's a huge commitment to do a 14-week races. Because for the last 14 weekends, I'm not in town. Plus all the training I'm doing, the tracks in between that. Basically, for the rest of the year, I'm at a racetrack, and it's really easy on a Thursday night to say, oh, I got too much work. I have to take care of the work. For me, this is work, and so I went out. You know, racing could be an expense, so I thought I need to get sponsorships, not only to help just mitigate the cost of racing, but if I take on a sponsor, I'm making a commitment to somebody. So now I have to do it. Like, and for me, that was the most important thing. It's a huge thing I learned this year. So sponsorship-wise, obviously the Classic Car Club and Alpine Stars is supplying me with all my leathers and my equipment and new airbag suits. So like I go faster if I feel safer, and that new technology, it knows when you're about to crash and inflates 3 inches of air around you.
Oh yeah, that's pretty amazing. That's safety stuff.
HWI Motorsport Insurance, Riders Alley, super cool guys in New York, motorcycle culture.
Motorsport motorsport insurance is interesting.
Yeah, so motorsport insurance. It used to be like a timed event or whatever.
Yeah,
but like
right.
HWI, if you're racing cars, they do like vintage, all sorts of racing, and they will insure your car. Untitled Error, which is a really cool design team that does all my design and stuff. And then, of course, The Drive, you guys.
Hey.
So, just so everybody knows, I did send an email to the team at The Drive every 3 days for 6 months until they acquiesced and said I could do it. But that's what you have to do. But
Yeah.
listen, I put a deck together, and I didn't just ask for money. I said, listen, this is what I need to race. This is what the racing is. This is what I promised to do, and this is what you will get out of it. So,
Yeah.
like, people aren't going to give you money just because they like you. Like, you owe that. You are an employee now, which is now I say, like, I'm an employee of The Drive. I'm officially an employee of The Drive. I'm on the payroll, and I owe you guys. I owe you documentaries and things like that, so I want to do it.
Yeah. Well, I mean, that's the important thing about this is bringing the experience around to people.
Put that deck together. Go to your local restaurant. Go to look at the high school team. Who supported the softball team?
Right.
$500 goes a long way. When a set of tires is $250 a set, you're going through a few weekend. $500 adds up. Like, you know, just
Yeah.
do it. It's not about the money. It's about the money. But it's mostly about making the commitment. So you have no excuse. You have to wake up early. You got to be in that truck at 4 in the morning. You got to go do it.
Yeah, yeah.
That's it.
Well, it's really interesting about putting a racing team together because the business side of it is really important, and I think that racing schools should come with like a business course program.
Really good
I mean,
idea,
honestly,
isn't it?
everything should. I was
Right?
just watching Jason Alexander from Seinfeld.
Yeah.
I was listening to him on the Mark Maron
He races
podcast.
cars?
No,
Yeah,
but he was
seems to
talking
be.
about how acting schools should have business classes
That's a really
attached
good
to a
point.
conservatory program
That's a
where
really
they
good
just
point.
learn to do the skill.
Right?
There should always be a business.
Our automotive racing
course.
team has a company.
Yeah.
So it's just, it's you know, a small company that we set up, but that's how we handle expenses. And like, you know, we have a bunch of cars and an 18-wheeler, and we're on that team, so we all put our money in, it gets distributed out. And,
Yeah.
You know, we actually, you know, our accounting team at the Classic Car Club helps us do that. Actually, JJ does most of it. If you're going to start a race team, call JJ Jenkins and try to get him on it. He's like, he's what you want, you know? He's actually the one who really encouraged me to do this, too.
Yeah.
So,
Well,
but that's it.
I'm glad you decided to do this because I wanted to do a show where you see the inside of this.
Yeah. So
What the actual day-to-day.
And I'm so
stuff
thankful
of it
that you guys bet on this horse. And so throughout the next, well, I guess until the end of October, we're going to be putting out these documentaries. It's going to be me every weekend. And certainly you'll see how I'm doing, how I'm not doing. I'll give you a little teaser. I got my ass whipped the first race by like 16-year-old national champs, and it was like, it was a huge privilege to share some tarmac with those kids, and like I hung onto that rear wheel as long as I can, and I just took on as much data as I can, and I would just watch them lean over these corners and open the throttle and take off, and like, you know, they're light. That's why I got so light, but like I battled for position in a couple of times, and like I came in like second from last on this first race, and I was walking 12 feet tall, man, because it's just part of like, it was a goal I had, and I'm doing it.
Yeah.
I find myself now, I'm not the greatest rider out there, but like I'm getting to a point where I'm starting to become a very proficient rider on a motorcycle. And now, like, you know, again, it's just going out every single day with that coach. Every time I'm out, and like, yep, my head is here, it's got to be here, and like my foot is here, but it's got to be, you know.
Yeah.
And it's such a privilege to be able to surround yourself with people who are so good and good at it. And so I hope everybody watches this series. I'm going to show you like why I chose the truck I chose, my pickup truck and my trailer, whether or not you even need that, the equipment that you need to do a good race weekend in a car or a bike, and just the things that you can consider, you know? Also, as this goes on, you know, I'm on Instagram. You can find me, Michael Piccinello. Like, it's probably a good platform to ask me whatever question you have. Like, you know, you can always find us at the Classic Car Club. But I just want to encourage people who have the notion, like, life is short. You're gonna be in a box soon enough. So, like, if you want to go racing, you can go racing.
Yeah.
Use me. Learn from all of my mistakes.
Yeah.
And come racing.
And start. Because starting is the thing. Because you have to get from terror and claustrophobia, which are the first two things about racing that I think are the hardest thing to get over if you're starting out. Terror and claustrophobia, and then
faith in yourself.
Yeah, and then racecraft and skill.
Have a plan. It's written right on my tent.
And then just get better.
What's your plan? And like, you gotta have a plan. Write it on your steering wheel if it's a car. Put it on your gas tank if it's a bike. What is your plan? What is your plan for the season? What is your plan for the next 20 minutes? And you snap that visor down, you click into mode, and you're practicing. Like, what is your plan?
Yeah.
And do it. No one's going to do your plan for you other than you. So,
there you go.
So come racing with me this weekend.
Yes.
This season, watch it, laugh at my failures.
Watch The Weekender on YouTube and on thedrive.com. Dude, very good to see you. Thanks for doing this.
Thank you.
Talk to you soon.
Thank you.